Good morning. Thanks for tuning in. Hey, I want to share something I picked up from Jonathan Cahn. Good stuff, I believe, from the Book of Mysteries and from the prophet Zechariah. So, as always, with the Book of Mysteries, you've got the teacher and you've got the student. And they were in the Chamber of Garments, and there was these two wooden boxes. And the teacher opened the wooden box and put some things on the table. He said, "This was the crown of the king, the descendant of David." And this, as he placed the second object on the table, was something of a mix between a crown and a turban. He said, "This was the crown of the high priest, the descendant of Aaron." There are two crowns. These are two crowns representing the two offices of the two houses of Israel. No man could wear them both. The king could never minister as priest, and the high priest could never reign as king. The temple and the palace were separated by an unbridgeable chasm. So the student asks, well, is it really that important to keep this separation? And the teacher goes on to explain the true king of Israel was not man, but God. The only reason that Israel had a king is because they wanted one, and it was God condescended, or he gave in to what they really wanted. But ultimately, the king was simply to represent the true king. So the king represented the kingship of God. On the other hand, the high priest represented the people in their sins and fallenness. It was the priest's ministry to reconcile a sinful people to God, to their king and judge. So when you've got the king of Israel, God, he's the judge, and the high priest was something like a defense attorney before the judge, the two offices really had to be kept separate, right? I mean, that just makes sense. And yet there came a word to the prophet Zechariah that one day the two offices would become one. Messiah would become both king and high priest. Well, let's read what it says in Zechariah chapter 6. In Zechariah chapter 6, verse 12, it says, "This is what the Lord of heaven's army says. Here is the man called the branch." This is clearly a reference to the Messiah. "He will branch out from where he is and build the temple of the Lord. Yes, he will build the temple of the Lord. Then he will receive royal honor and will rule as king from his throne. He will also serve as priest from his throne, and there will be perfect harmony between the two roles." Now, when Zechariah prophesied this, people had to be scratching their heads. It's like, how can you be the judge and be the priest who's like the defense attorney? You really can't be both. And yet he says there'll be perfect harmony. So the teacher goes on to say that Yeshua, Jesus the Messiah, was born of the royal line of David. We know that to be true, the line of the kings. And yet his ministry was to offer up the sacrifice of atonement. The act not of the king, but the priest. Only the high priest could offer up the sacrifice of Messiah. The only other one who could do it, the only one, is the priest king. So, what would happen? What would happen if the judge deciding your case could become your defense attorney? Man, if you're going to trial and you're in trouble, and the court has got the goods on you, and then all of a sudden the judge steps down and says, "No, I want to be your defense attorney." Folks, that's good news. I mean, you talk about throwing the case out of court. You can't lose. So he still remains the judge, but he is your defense attorney. Folks, the case is over. And that's what happened. That's what happened in Jesus. He wears both crowns, of the high priest and of the king, of the judge and of your defense attorney. And the Apostle John refers to him as that we have an advocate, that we have a defense attorney in his first epistle. That's who Jesus is. That is the good news of the new covenant. Take it, believe it, accept it today. Share it with somebody else. God bless you. Have a great week.